Discipline, discipline, discipline. You should be more disciplined in your life. Yeah, we know. But it's sort of like honoring intelligence, as if intelligence was one statically defined thing. Like getting a good SAT score in my day, or some high IQ or Briggs-Myers outlier group. If you were to break out intelligence, you might start with what environment you're in, or problem you're trying to solve, and then think about what skills apply to those things. Someone with those skills, under those circumstances, is going to seem intelligent. There are less specific general abilities that can apply across domains, like the ability to communicate clearly in group situations or apply good logic to what you can conclude about what you're observing. But you're not an intelligent creature. You're a creature who, if does many specific things that apply well to your situation, can later be summarized as intelligent. Or unintelligent, as must also happen. But then we're typically more understanding towards ourselves. I remember in Hans Rosling's book Factfulness, 10 Reasons We're Wrong About the World and Things Are Better Than You Think, when he tells the story of his assuredly intelligent research student being harangued for their lack of intelligence as an elevator operator, when they attempt to hold the elevator door in an elevator that doesn't have any motion sensors and would have simply crushed the student's arm or hand, which luckily didn't happen because there was someone more intelligent as an elevator operator present in that environment. I would like a word on factfulness and its duplicity in gaslighting people about how we should evaluate the state of the world, by the way. Discipline, like intelligence, is a very useful outcome, but it's also a brutal concept if you don't break it down into something more attainable and instead look at it with that fixed mindset of have or have not. I don't know too many people that would publicly profess that they're not intelligent people. Not that it might not be something we internally deal with, but I know plenty that would admit to not being disciplined enough people. Discipline is just another intelligence, a kind of overblown word. Probably too generic to be used meaningfully, like, you need more discipline in your life, boy. But great when it appears as something we feel we have at the end of the day. Or, to briefly make sense of Hans Rosling's book Factfulness' Logical Failure, instead of at the end of the day, at the end of the time range when it's meaningful to evaluate. In the case of society, as the scale approaches infinity, not just over 100 years. If you spend all your time growing food and then suddenly discover a gluttony of caloric intake in the form of a massive donut supply, then the short term looks better in some specific ways, but will trend much worse if you're not focused on using that caloric boom to build stable, human-centered foundations. I would like to add that I enjoyed Factfulness and think it has interesting and valuable lessons and information, just that its underlying core premise that we're all suffering from a delusion that the world isn't, in fact, getting worse in important ways, isn't well made and creates a blind side towards building civilization out of sandcastles. But back to discipline. It's the ability to act or not act. It's the ability to withstand distraction. It's the ability to do the things we know are important to do repetitively if necessary, even if it's boring as all hell, and even if it's hard. But discipline itself isn't just a thing you have or don't have. It's a combination of many things in your life coming together to create the outcome that you want in those moments. Or it's a few or many missing pieces that you still need to put together, which is the absolutely critical point. Discipline is an outcome based on a multitude of skills and strategies and design, and not just, you need to have more discipline, boy. So if you want to see more discipline being exercised in your life, I would say you need to start by defining what you're not doing that is important to do, and what you are doing that you can stop doing, probably by replacing or augmenting it with those things you want to do. I get that it's a useful way to bootstrap yourself into a practice of doing things that you might not want to do, but making your bed every morning is not the definition of discipline. Discipline does not have to be about blindly following orders or whipping yourself over the back when you haven't done all your daily chores to keep your house looking like a museum. It's not effective to do things that aren't important. Getting discipline back into your life starts with doing things that you think are important, which I grant you, we often fail to consciously recall and thus redirect ourselves towards. So if you have no idea what's important or meaningful to you in your life, don't start with making your bed. Start with a piece of paper and a pencil and come up with a list of little and big things you think are important. I've talked about a simple exercise you can do in a previous video, and I've used this myself to help get back on course pretty recently, when I suddenly realized I wasn't sure where I was on my own life map. If you're able to listen to my blah, blah, blah here, then I fully believe in your subconscious knowledge to have some idea of what would be good for your own life. Things that if you started accomplishing, you would feel disciplined. Once you brainstorm that list, if making your bed wasn't on it, but you think it could be important, then sure. If you want, then you can try doing that. Does it feel like a small win in your day when you do it? Great. Other people's opinions, what I call chaos, is very important to experiment with continuously, and I have nothing against other people making their beds in the morning. But if I'm speaking personally, and I'm about to, if I stay in a hotel room, for instance, then being strapped into my bed by those tight sheets is the last thing that I want. I will trash those sheets left and right until they're loose and messy and I can get my feet out the bottom. And how my comforter lays in the bed when I leave my bedroom in the morning, a place I don't return to until I'm almost ready to crash at night, doesn't mean a thing to me. If it means something to you, by all means do it. But don't already start some negative self-belief about your ability to be disciplined because you don't do things that aren't meaningful to you. Discipline, aka doing things that are important to do, comes easiest when you have the most foundational principles possible that affect the outcome you want, aligned in support of what you're trying to do. Why does work start at the beginning of the day for most people? Because it's when you have the most energy and the most time. That's why you see so many people sharing tips on getting up super ass early, because they have to create their own definition of the day where they're able to give themselves a choice to put the most important things in their life first. There's also something a little magical about those hours before the world wakes up, but this doesn't mean not getting a good night's sleep, mind you. It means you then need to shift your sleep cycle to get to bed earlier to allow that. And that might mean giving up things in your nighttime routine that you want to hold on to. But you should be sure that's really true before you already start mourning a loss in the quality of your life. Was that thing you're losing on your list of what you think is important to you? How high was it? Just maybe you want it so much because it's a justification for distracting yourself. So you never really have to try and fail at what you think is important to do. If you want to be disciplined as an outcome, you may have to face up to truths in your life about why you do things. And those realities aren't always super pleasant. But your ability to be comfortable when things get a little uncomfortable might just turn out to be your most important skill. It's become too easy to believe that we can avoid life being hard, but in the long run, it doesn't work. Whenever I want to do something, I'm always a little suspicious of myself. Reading, for example, is on my list of important goals, both nonfiction and for me practicing another language through fiction. But the moment in my evening when I feel that I just want to curl up and read is the moment I know that I'm probably just trying to distract and avoid from things I don't want to do but are important. What I want to do suddenly becomes my justification not to do what's more important. In those moments, you have to have some support ready. I walk over to my list of predetermined things that future planning me wants in my life, which exists physically in my world and not in some hard-to-reach neuron in the back of my brain. And from that list, I find something I can manage and do it. Usually that actually changes my state of energy, and I suddenly manage to do another thing. I don't want to sound like too much of a masochist here. I think things in your life should be fun, but maybe not that fun. If you keep things a little hard, so you have to question whether you really want to do them, but you're still curious if you can complete the challenge, then that's type 2 fun. It's fun when it's over and you look back and think, hey, I did it. And that's usually the type of experience that makes us proud of ourselves and builds confidence. If you let your inability to get the most important things in your life done at the very end of your day discourage you, you might conclude you're just not disciplined enough to do them, when really you might simply benefit from doing the most important things in your life as the first things in your life. It is much more difficult to do hard things at the end of the day, but it can actually be the most rewarding time to do them as well. You shouldn't take risks with things you can't afford to lose. Do the important things first, but try to save a few type 2 fun things for last sometimes, especially if you aren't feeling great about how your day went, and see if it doesn't change how your day feels. See if you don't sleep a little better that night when you at least try. Just start and see what happens. Worst case, you can cry yourself to sleep. I think the trick of the evening is about keeping yourself from dropping into that relaxed state too early. We need less passive entertainment recovery time than we think, as long as we're getting a good night's sleep. Let the 100% relaxed state live at the very end of the day. Stay active longer than you like and resist that want-to-do craving that doesn't match your priorities. Don't let walking into your home be the signal to yourself that you're waving the white flag and give up on everything else in your day. We all do things based on rules and limits, so there's no reason not to make your own rules for your own benefit. Example, I have a time-bounding rule that helps me not eat too much junk food at night. I follow a limit that I don't eat after about 7 o'clock, which is usually about the time I start getting mentally hazy and need rules and games and rewards to keep me on track and to keep from raising that white flag. I don't not eat after 7 specifically to avoid junk food, but because I like the idea of creating safe discomfort in my eating habits and remembering that being hungry is okay as long as you're meeting your daily caloric intake otherwise. I like waking up and writing until 10 in the morning without being bothered about making a meal or having energy committed to digestion. All those habits align for me. I stay away from junk food. I let my body do different types of metabolic work. I have increased focus towards my most important goal, writing. And I constantly have a little something to look forward to, my reward, eating, when I actually have some more authentic signal of hunger. I'm not saying the same will work for you, but I am saying that limits are a critical element of every game. They keep you interested and engaged. A game that's too easy to win isn't one that we will dedicate our minds towards. I can share a lot of ideas that help me find discipline in my life, but you have to find time to be you and solve things your way. I heard of a supposed quote from Tony Robbins, a motivational speaker, on the issue of being able to find 10 minutes a day to meditate. And he said, if you don't have 10 minutes to be with yourself, then you don't have a life. I think it's beautiful in a harshly direct way. And the same thing applies to the things that are actually important to you. If you don't have 60 minutes, 30 minutes, 15 minutes to do what you think is the most important thing in your life, then whose life are you living? You have to be dead honest with yourself. Are you living Netflix's version of your life? A fictionalized novel from your sofa? Some sports team's long-running drama? An Instagram or Facebook flipbook of all the nice things? A newsfeed of 99.9% unactionable, redundant, or poorly scoped information? You might have to give those things up in order to get yourself back. But that's the most important element of discipline. It's the story about you, the one that you believe in deep down. And it's only you that can figure out what's necessary for you to take the actions that are important to you. David Goggins, a Navy SEAL, author, long-distance runner, cyclist, many other things, talks a lot about discipline, and from his accounts, he is a man of discipline. But look at David Goggins' decided life mission. By his own words, he wants to be the hardest mother to ever walk the earth. He believes in that story of himself, and he uses it in his application of himself to as many of the things that he does as he can. But I would argue that it's not that he is disciplined so much as he believes in discipline. Those things are subtly but importantly different. It's the intelligence analogy again. If you believe people are either intelligent or not, and you face a problem you can't solve, then you give up. Fixed mindset, right? But if you believe in intelligence, then you start applying the principles of intelligence to make progress on the problem. You will become more intelligent as you approach the problem. When you believe in discipline, then you believe in the story of your actions compounding into real effects on your life. Whatever it is, if I take action, I will create change in my life. That's powerful. That's why discipline as a result is an incredible thing to notice in your life. But what discipline actually is the result of consideration and planning, of better scheduling, of honesty in recognizing what's important and what's merely a distraction, of rules and limits, of being comfortable with discomfort, and of years and years of learning and experimenting and failing and slowly shifting your perspective and mental programming and self-talk on many things until they align in a powerful and stable way back to the foundations of true first principles that ground and power your life, both of you and of reality, something Hans Rosling failed to do. And even more importantly, the having of a story that you consciously know and understand and believe in and are passively reminded of, so that you will want to do the things that aren't easy and that might seem boring or repetitive, but that are distinctly you, in that they're a necessary or chosen part of your story. Sometimes there are good reasons to complete other people's checklists, but just because you don't do that doesn't mean you lack discipline. Maybe you don't respect the person giving you the checklist and subconsciously don't want them to be a part of your life. You should consciously examine that, because that could well be the next outcome you're headed for if it's a boss assigning you expected work, or a partner and housemate trying to share things that might need to be done around the house or in your lives. But maybe you just don't understand the meaning in the story. Why am I doing this, and why am I doing it like this? Think about making your bed in the morning. Is that something you'll appreciate at the end of the day when you're out of energy and just want to curl up in bed and feel cozy? Then do it. Will you appreciate having a clean kitchen sink when it's time to cook for the next meal? Then make your mantra cleaning dishes the perfect digestive. Spice up the repetitive, boring stuff with little rewards, your podcast or YouTube feed time at times. Don't leave stuff you care about and matter to you undone because you lack discipline. Life finds a way, so they say in Jurassic Park, and so can you, by building from the strong and stable foundational principles of good design, rooted in our physical and psychological reality. You don't have to get caught up doing things like everyone else thinks you should do them. Make them yours. Play your own game. And all these things will suddenly become much more interesting. Make those things a part of the story you believe in by understanding why they're important to you, and then use your big, beautiful, problem-solving brain to get creative on what works for you. Design your life your way, and discipline will be the result. You'll just have too much invested to spend too much time faffing about. The quality of how you go about your life will rise with the intention that you put into it. More thoughts another day. Peace out.